All right, let's dive deeper into this in the simplest way possible. 1. What is criminal procedure? Criminal procedure is like a step-by-step process that tells us how to deal with someone who breaks the law. It answers questions like, how do we catch someone who did something wrong? How do we take them to court? How do we decide if they should be punished? What kind of punishment should they get? This process is very important because it helps the police, lawyers, and judges know what to do in each case. Without it, things would be confusing. 2. Why is criminal procedure necessary? Let's say we have laws like stealing is wrong, murder is wrong, but these laws by themselves don't tell us how to handle thieves or murderers. They just say what is wrong and what the punishment should be. That's where criminal procedure comes in. It tells us how to find the person who broke the law, how to prove in court that they did something wrong, how to punish them fairly. Without this process, the laws would just be empty words. People could break the law and not get caught. Even if the police catch someone, they wouldn't know what to do next. Example, let's say a thief steals money from a shop. The law says stealing is bad and the thief should go to jail for 2 years. Now, without criminal procedure, how will the police know what to do? Should they just send the thief to jail without a trial? That wouldn't be fair. What if the person is innocent? Criminal procedure makes sure there is a proper investigation, a fair trial, and that only the person truly guilty gets punished. 3. Steps in criminal procedure. Here's how it works, step by step. A. Detection, finding out who broke the law. This is the first step. It's about finding out who committed the crime. This job is mostly done by the police. Example, if a house is robbed, the police will look for clues like fingerprints, talk to witnesses, or check security cameras to find out who the thief is. B. Arresting the suspect. Once the police think they know who the criminal is, they will arrest the person. An arrest means taking the person into custody so they don't run away and can face justice in court. Example, after investigating, if the police find the thief, they will arrest them and bring them to the police station for questioning. C. Prosecution, taking the case to court. Next, the police and the lawyers will take the case to court. This is called prosecution. In court, both sides will tell their story. The prosecutor, the lawyer representing the government, will say, this person committed the crime and here's the evidence to prove it. The defense lawyer will say, my client is innocent, and explain why they think so. This step makes sure everything is fair. Everyone has a chance to present their side of the story. Example, in the case of the thief, the prosecutor might show the judge the stolen items, security footage, or witness statements to prove the person is guilty. The defense lawyer might argue that there's not enough proof, or maybe the person has an alibi, was somewhere else when the crime happened. D. Trial. Judge or jury decides the truth. At the trial, the judge or a jury, a group of regular people, will listen to both sides and then decide, did the person commit the crime? Are they guilty or innocent? If the evidence is strong and the judge or jury believes the person is guilty, they will convict, declare them guilty. If the evidence is weak or the defense proves the person is innocent, they will acquit, set them free. Example, the judge listens to all the facts about the robbery. If there's strong proof, like clear video footage, or the stolen money was found with the thief, the judge will declare the thief guilty. Sentencing, deciding the punishment. If the person is found guilty, the judge will decide the punishment. This could be jail time, put in prison for a certain number of years, fines, paying money, or some other punishment. The punishment usually depends on how serious the crime is. Example, if the thief is found guilty, the judge might sentence them to 2 years in jail or give them a fine. F. Appeal, challenging the decision. Sometimes after a person is found guilty, they might believe the court made a mistake. In that case, they can appeal, which means they ask a higher court to review the case to see if something went wrong during the trial. Example, The thief's lawyer might think that the police didn't follow the rules properly during the arrest, so they can appeal to a higher court. Number 4. Why all these steps are important. Without these steps, the law would be unfair. Innocent people might be punished, or guilty people might escape justice. The rules of criminal procedure make sure that the right person gets punished and they get a fair chance to defend themselves. Real life example. Imagine you are accused of something you didn't do. Without criminal procedure, the police could arrest you without proof. You might not get a chance to tell your side of the story. You could be punished unfairly, even though you are innocent. But with criminal procedure, the police will need strong evidence to prove you did something wrong. You will get a lawyer to defend you in court. The judge will listen to both sides and make a fair decision. This is why criminal procedure is so important. It protects everyone's rights, whether they are innocent or guilty. Summary. Criminal procedure is like the roadmap for handling crimes. It ensures that justice is done by having a proper way to find criminals, try them in court, and punish them if they are guilty. Without it, the law would be like an empty promise. It wouldn't stop people from committing crimes because there would be no proper way to punish them. In short, criminal procedure makes sure that the law works in real life. Let's break this down step by step using simple and easy to understand language. Task 1. Criminal procedure supports criminal law. Criminal law is about what is right and wrong and the punishments for crimes. It says stealing is bad or murder is wrong, and it tells us the punishments for these crimes. But just having these laws is not enough. We also need a way to put these laws into action. This is where criminal procedure comes in. Criminal procedure is the set of rules that tells us how to make the criminal law work. It is the process for catching criminals, taking them to court and punishing them. 2. The machinery for justice. Criminal procedure gives us the machinery, tools or system to find out who committed a crime, arrest suspects, people who are believed to have broken the law, collect evidence to prove whether the person is guilty or innocent, decide in court if the person is really guilty, punish the guilty person with the correct punishment. Example, if someone is suspected of stealing, criminal procedure helps the police investigate the crime, arrest the suspect, collect evidence like witness statements or stolen items, and take the suspect to court. The court will then decide if the person is guilty, and if they are, punish them properly, e.g. sending them to jail or fining them. 3. Protection of innocent people. Criminal procedure also makes sure that innocent people are protected during the investigation. It tries to prevent any harm to those who did nothing wrong. Example, if the police arrest someone, but that person is innocent, the law of criminal procedure makes sure that the person gets a chance to prove they didn't commit the crime. The police and court cannot treat the innocent person unfairly. If a mistake is made, the person should be released and not punished. This is important because mistakes can happen and we don't want innocent people to be punished. Number 4, balance of power. Criminal procedure tries to balance 2 things. The police and courts need power to investigate and decide criminal cases. Without power, they can't catch or punish criminals. But at the same time, there must be control to make sure the police and courts don't misuse their power or act unfairly. This balance makes sure that the system is strong enough to catch criminals, but also fair to everyone. Example, the police have the power to arrest a person, but they cannot just arrest anyone without a reason. They must follow the rules. If they misuse this power, it could lead to unfair treatment of people. 5. Rule of law versus rule of whim. The Supreme Court has said that criminal procedure is important because it makes the difference between the rule of law. This means that everything happens according to rules. There is order and fairness. The rule of whim, this means things happen randomly or based on what someone feels like doing. without following rules. This leads to chaos and unfairness. In a fair system, everyone must follow the rules, and decisions should not be made based on random decisions or personal feelings. Example: imagine if the police could arrest anyone they wanted without proof or reason. That would be the rule of whim, and it would be very unfair. But with criminal procedure, the police must have evidence and follow legal steps before arresting someone, which is the rule of law. Number 6. Case examples. The Supreme Court mentioned 2 cases. Lovell Ismail Sodawala v. State of Maharashtra, 1975. This case showed how criminal procedure helps us understand the difference between following rules and acting randomly. Rani Kusum v. Kanchandibbi 5. Although this case was about civil procedure, not criminal, it still highlighted how procedural law, the rules for handling cases, is essential for ensuring justice. Summary. Criminal law tells us what is a crime and what the punishment should be. Criminal procedure is the process that helps us apply those laws. It helps catch criminals, prove guilt or innocence, protect innocent people, make sure justice is done fairly. It also makes sure the police and courts use their power wisely and don't misuse it. Without criminal procedure, we would have the rule of whim, where things happen randomly and unfairly. With criminal procedure, we have the rule of law, where everything happens fairly and by the rules. By having a clear process in place, the system can work in a way that protects everyone's rights and makes sure justice is served. Let's explain this step by step in the simplest way with more details. The case is about a man, petitioner, who was sentenced to 7 years in jail for robbery, but he had trouble appealing the decision because he couldn't get a copy of the judgment on time. 1. Who was involved? Petitioner. This is the person who is in jail. He was found guilty of robbery and sentenced to 7 years of imprisonment. Judge. The person who heard the case decided the man was guilty and gave the punishment. Jail authorities, the people who manage the prison and are responsible for the prisoners. #2. The crimes, offences. The petitioner was found guilty of 2 crimes. Section 392 of the Indian Penal Code, IPC. This is about robbery, stealing something from someone using force or fear. Section 397 of the IPC. This makes robbery more serious if a weapon or dangerous object is used. 3. What happened in court? The man was put on trial. A trial is when a court listens to the case, looks at the evidence, and decides whether someone is guilty or innocent. The judge found him guilty of both crimes. The judge then sentenced him to 7 years of rigorous imprisonment. This means he had to stay in jail for 7 years and work hard during that time. 4. What happened after the sentence? The petitioner, the man in jail, asked for a copy of the judgment after the judge announced the decision. He needed the judgment to appeal. What is a judgment? A judgment is the written decision of the court. It explains why the judge found the person guilty and what the punishment is. What is an appeal? An appeal is when you ask a higher court to look at the case again to see if the lower court made the right decision. The jail authorities told him he would get the judgment copy, but they never gave it to him. 5. The petitioner's problem. The petitioner couldn't file his appeal because he didn't have the judgment copy. Without the judgment, he had no way to show the higher court what the lower court decided and why he thought the decision was wrong. 6. What did he do next? After waiting for a long time, he decided to file 2 petitions, formal requests to the court from jail. These petitions were numbered 1523 of 1973 and 1522 of 1973. The petitions asked the court to help him get the judgment copy so he could file his appeal. 7. What are the legal rules involved? The case involved certain sections of the Code of Criminal Procedure, CRPC, These are like rules that explain what must be done in a criminal case. Section 366, this says the judgment must be signed by the judge and announced in court. Section 67, this says the judgment should be in writing and it should clearly state the reasons for the decision, the facts and the punishment. Section 537, this section says that small mistakes or irregularities during a trial don't always make the judgment invalid. However, in this case, not providing a judgment copy on time was a bigger issue. 8. Why is this important? Justice delayed. Not getting the judgment copy meant the petitioner couldn't appeal on time. This delays justice for him, which is unfair. Following proper procedures. The law says the court must provide a written judgment to the accused person, especially if they want to file an appeal. If the system fails to do this, it creates a problem for the person who wants to appeal. Rights of prisoners. Every person has the right to challenge a court's decision if they think it was wrong. In this case, the petitioner's rights were affected because he didn't get the copy in time. 9. Example to understand better. Imagine you're in a competition and the judges decide that you lost. You believe they made a mistake, so you ask to see the score sheet judgment to understand why they made that decision. But they refuse to give it to you. Without the score sheet, how can you challenge their decision or prove that they made an error? This is similar to what happened in this case. The petitioner wanted to challenge his punishment, but couldn't do so without the judgment. 10. The role of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court looked at this case and explained that the procedure of the law is very important. Following proper procedure is what makes the rule of law different from the rule of whim and caprice, which means decisions made randomly without any proper system. In simple words, laws and procedures must be followed carefully so that nobody is treated unfairly. If courts or authorities don't follow the procedure properly, it can lead to injustice. Summary. The petitioner was sentenced to 7 years for robbery, but didn't get the court's judgment copy, which he needed to appeal. The law requires that judgment be given in writing, signed and provided on time. Because he didn't get the judgment, he had to file petitions to ask for help. The case shows how important it is for courts to follow proper procedures and respect the rights of the accused, especially when it comes to allowing appeals. Let's explain this in even more detail, step by step, in simple language. 1. What is happening? The petitioner, the person who is in jail, has asked the court for something called a writ of habeas corpus. This is a legal term that means I believe I am being kept in jail unfairly, and I want the court to check if my detention imprisonment is right. What is habeas corpus? It's a way to ask the court to look into whether a person is being kept in jail legally. It's a protection against illegal imprisonment. 2. What is the petitioner complaining about? The person in jail, petitioner, is saying the judge didn't properly announce the judgment in the courtroom. The judgment is the court's official decision, whether the person is guilty or innocent and what the punishment will be. Normally, the judge should say the judgment out loud in court, so everyone, including the accused person, knows what the decision is. Instead, only the court clerk, an assistant in the court, told the petitioner what the final decision was. The clerk is not the judge, so he shouldn't be the one to tell the decision. This is why the petitioner feels the process wasn't done properly. The petitioner also says that the judgment wasn't complete at the time when he was told the decision. He is arguing that until the judgment is fully complete, it should not be announced. Because of this, the petitioner feels he has been kept in jail for 7 months without knowing all the reasons why, as he hasn't been given the official copy of the judgment. 3. What is the petitioner asking for? The petitioner wants the court to look into this situation because he believes it's unfair that he has been kept in jail without a proper judgment being announced and without being given a written copy of the judgment. He feels that since the judgment wasn't announced by the judge and it wasn't complete, he should not have been imprisoned for 7 months. 4. What did the trial judge say? The trial judge, the judge who handled the case, responded when asked about what happened. The judge said, normally he would say the judgment out loud in court. This is called dictating the judgment. But in this case, the final decision was told to the accused by the clerk, called a sheriffstadar. The sheriffstadar is an assistant who handles paperwork and other duties in the court, but they aren't supposed to announce the final decision. This should be done by the judge. The judge also explained why the petitioner didn't get a copy of the judgment right away. The judgment was written in shorthand, a quick way of writing, like a code, and it needed to be typed up in regular writing before the petitioner could get a copy. This took time. 5. Why is this a problem? The petitioner, the person in jail, is saying the judge didn't announce the judgment in the way it should have been done. And this is a problem because the accused has the right to hear the final decision from the judge. The judgment wasn't complete when it was announced, and the law says that the decision should only be announced when it's fully ready. The petitioner wasn't given a copy of the judgment for many months, which made it hard for him to understand the full reasons for his imprisonment or to appeal the decision, ask a higher court to look at it again. Why does this matter? This is important because fair process. The accused person has a right to a fair process. This means that the trial, the announcement of the judgment, and the giving of the judgment copy should all be done properly. Right to appeal. Without a written copy of the judgment, the accused person can't file an appeal, ask a higher court to look at the case. So by not giving the petitioner a copy of the judgment on time, it's like the court is blocking his right to appeal. Hammer 7, example to understand better. Imagine you are in a school competition and the teacher has to announce who won. But instead of the teacher announcing the winner, a school assistant who shouldn't be announcing the result comes and says you lost and you will be punished for doing something wrong. You want to hear it directly from the teacher because that's the rule. Plus, the score sheet, which explains why you lost, isn't ready yet, so you can't even see why you're being punished. You feel this is unfair because the process wasn't followed correctly, and you're being punished without knowing exactly why. In this case, the petitioner is feeling the same way. He is saying the judge didn't announce the judgment, like the teacher not announcing the winner. The decision wasn't complete. He didn't get the judgment copy on time, like not getting the score sheet in the competition. 8. Conclusion. The petitioner feels that his rights were violated because 1. The judgment wasn't properly announced by the judge. 2. The judgment wasn't complete when it was announced. 3. He wasn't given a copy of the judgment on time, which made it unfair for him to be kept in jail and made it hard for him to appeal the decision. He is asking the court to look into these issues and decide if he was wrongfully kept in jail because the court didn't follow the correct process. Let's break this down step by step, word by word, just like a teacher would explain to a child who has never heard about legal terms before. What is this all about? This is a story about a prisoner called the petitioner who had a problem with how his trial and the decisions around his case were handled. He felt that something was wrong in the way things were done, so he went to court to ask for help. The court looked at his complaint to decide if what happened to him was fair or not. Key terms and simple meanings. Superintendent of prison. This is the person in charge of the prison, like the head or the boss of the jail. Judgment. A decision made by the court or a judge about someone's guilt or innocence. Petitioner. The person who brings a problem or complaint to the court. Here it's the prisoner. Appeal. When someone asks a higher court to look again at a decision made by a lower court or hoping for a different result. High court. This is a court that looks at cases after a lower court has made a decision to check if things were done correctly. Section 366, 367, 371 of criminal procedure. These are parts of the law that tell judges and courts how to act when making decisions, like giving out judgments. 1. The judgment decision was delayed. The prisoner was judged in court, meaning the court decided if he was guilty or not. After the decision was made, the prison got a copy of the judgment after 9 months. This means the decision paper didn't reach the jail for a very long time. 2. The prisoner appealed. As soon as the prisoner got the judgment paper, he asked for help from the High Court because he wasn't happy with the decision. However, when the High Court looked at his case, they rejected his appeal. This means they didn't change the original decision, the prisoner's lawyers say. The prisoner's lawyer told the court that the process wasn't done properly. They said the judge made a mistake in the way they handled the judgment. The lawyer pointed to some rules in the law, sections 366, 367 and 371, to explain why he thought the process was wrong. Sec. 366 and 367. These rules say that the judgment must be pronounced in open court. This means the judge must announce it where everyone can hear. The judgment also has to be dated and signed by the judge at the same time when the judge gives the decision. Sec. 371. This rule says the prisoner should get a copy of the judgment without any delay. This means they should not have to wait too long to see the paper of the court's decision. What else happened? The prisoner had sent another petition request to the court before, asking for something else. But the registrar, someone who handles legal paperwork for the court, said no. The reason was that the petition wasn't accompanied by a copy of the Register of Petition. This is a special document from the jail that needs to be filled out by the jail superintendent when a prisoner sends a request to the court. Because of this missing paper, the registrar didn't put the prisoner's earlier request in front of the judge. Why was this important? The prisoner is trying to show that he wasn't treated fairly because the law says the judgment should be given out in the open, on time, and signed by the judge immediately. The prisoner should get the judgment paper without delay. Here, the prisoner didn't get the judgment paper for 9 months, which means the court didn't follow the rules correctly according to the law. Example to understand it better. Let's imagine you're in school. Your teacher gives you an important exam, but after the test, she doesn't tell you your grade for 9 months. You know you took the test, but you have no idea if you passed or failed for a long time. Then one day, you get your grade and find out you failed. You go to the head teacher and say, "This isn't fair. I didn't even know my result for 9 months. How could I try to fix things or ask for help?" The head teacher looks at your complaint but says, "Sorry, the grade stays the same." That's what the prisoner was feeling when he went to court. Additional information. Why are sections like 366, 367 and 371 important? These rules are important because they make sure the court works fairly. They make sure that when someone is judged, everything happens in a fair and open way, and the person knows what is happening in their case right away. 2. What happens if the rules aren't followed? If the rules aren't followed, a prisoner might not get a fair chance to defend themselves or to ask for help from a higher court. This could be a violation of their rights. Summary. In simple terms, the prisoner felt that the court didn't follow the rules when deciding his case because he got the judgment paper 9 months late. His lawyer argued that the law says the judgment should be given immediately and in open court. But that didn't happen. The court didn't accept this argument and the prisoner's appeal was rejected. In the end, the prisoner believes he wasn't given a fair chance, and that's why he's fighting in court. I hope this explanation was easy to understand. If you have any more questions or need another example, just let me know. All right, let's go over this piece by piece, like explaining it to someone who knows nothing about the law. What is this all about? This is talking about a set of laws called the Code of Criminal Procedure. This code is like a rule book that courts follow to make sure trials or cases are fair and just. Think of it like the guidelines for playing a game, where each rule helps keep the game fair. The text explains two big ideas. One, the purpose of these rules is to help courts do what's fair and right, not to make things so technical that they become unfair. Two, some rules are more important than others. Breaking certain rules can make a trial invalid, while breaking others might just be a mistake that doesn't change the fairness of the trial. Let's dive into each point, key terms and simple meanings. Procedure. This means the way things are done. In court, procedures are the steps or actions that must be followed during a trial. Justice. This is the idea of being fair and making sure everyone is treated equally and rightly. Natural justice. These are the basic rules of fairness, like giving both sides a chance to tell their story. Miscarriage of justice. This means something went very wrong and the trial wasn't fair. Irregularity. This means a mistake in following the steps or procedures, breaking it down step by step. 1. Purpose of the Code of Criminal Procedure. The Code of Criminal Procedure is a set of rules that the courts follow during trials. This code isn't just for following steps. It's there to make sure trials are fair and that justice is served. Example, imagine you're playing a board game. The rule book tells you what to do, like roll the dice or move your piece. The purpose of the rules is to help everyone play the game fairly so no one cheats. The Code of Criminal Procedure does the same thing for court trials. 2. Avoiding endless technicalities. Sometimes courts have so many rules that it's possible to get caught up in small details called technicalities that don't really matter to the fairness of the case. This code tries to focus on fairness, not on tiny details that would make things too complicated. Example. In the board game, imagine there's a rule that says you must roll the dice with your right hand. But if someone rolls with their left hand, does it really matter as long as everyone plays fairly? The code tries to ignore these kinds of little details when they don't affect fairness. 3. The importance of following procedures. Following the steps of the code is important because it's what keeps trials fair. Without proper procedures, the trial could become unfair or biased. So, following these steps helps make sure everyone is treated equally. Example, imagine you're on a sports team. If the referee only calls fouls against your team, but ignores the other team's fouls, it's not fair. Courts follow the code to avoid this type of unfairness. 4. Some rules are very important. Some parts of the code are so important that if they're broken, the whole trial might have to be done over. These important rules protect the rights of the person on trial, called the accused. Example, in school, imagine there's a rule that everyone should get a chance to speak. If the teacher ignores that rule and only lets one student speak, others don't get a fair chance. Breaking this rule would mean the teacher isn't being fair, just like courts wouldn't be fair if they ignore these important procedures. 5. Some rules are less important. There are other rules that aren't as crucial. If they're not followed perfectly, it might be considered a small mistake. But these mistakes won't make the whole trial unfair unless they actually caused a problem for the accused. Example, in your board game, let's say you skip reading one line in the rule book that doesn't affect the game's outcome. It's a small mistake that doesn't change who wins or loses. Courts treat some small procedural mistakes the same way. 6. Section 537 and fixing small mistakes. Section 537 of the code is a special rule that says a small mistake won't cancel out the court's decision unless that mistake made the trial unfair. This means that if a judge or lawyer made a small error, it doesn't ruin the trial unless it caused injustice. Example, imagine the referee in a sports game accidentally misses a minor rule, like allowing the ball to be moved an extra inch. If it doesn't affect who wins, then the game's result stands. Section 537 does the same thing. It says that minor mistakes don't ruin the trial's fairness unless they actually cause harm. Summary. In simple terms, the Code of Criminal Procedure is a set of rules that helps courts run trials in a fair way. The code is there to serve justice. do what's right, and not get caught up in tiny details that don't matter. Some rules are essential. If they're broken, the trial might need to be redone. Other rules are minor. If these are broken, the trial can still be fair as long as they don't hurt anyone's rights. Section 537 protects the trial's outcome from being cancelled due to small mistakes that didn't cause unfairness. This approach helps keep the justice system strong, fair, and balanced, ensuring that courts make decisions based on fairness rather than on tiny technical issues that don't really matter. Alright, I'll go into more detail and keep it as simple as possible. Let's look at each part carefully so you understand how this Code of Criminal Procedure, the set of rules for court processes, works and why it's important. 1. What is the Code of Criminal Procedure, CRPC? Imagine you're playing a game. Every game has rules to keep things fair and to ensure everyone follows the same steps. The Code of Criminal Procedure, CRPC, is a set of rules for how courts should handle criminal cases. Criminal cases are about people who may have broken the law. This code isn't there to decide who is guilty or innocent. Instead, it explains how the court should work step by step so that the process is fair. Purpose of the code. The main goal of the CRPC is to make sure everyone gets a fair trial. This means the accused person, the person being blamed, gets a chance to defend themselves properly. The truth comes out through a fair and orderly process. Imagine a referee in a sport. They're there to make sure everyone plays fairly. The CRPC acts like a referee for the courts. 3. Types of rules in the CRPC. In this code, there are 2 kinds of rules. A. Important rules. Vital rules. These are rules that must be followed for the trial to be fair. If these rules are ignored, the trial can be considered unfair or even invalid. Example, if someone is put on trial but doesn't get a chance to speak or defend themselves, it's unfair. This rule is vital because it protects the rights of the accused. B. Less important rules, non-vital rules. These rules are still important, but breaking them doesn't ruin the fairness of the trial. If these rules are not followed perfectly, it's called an irregularity. It's like a minor mistake. Example, let's say the judge forgets to sign a document right away. This might be a small mistake, but it doesn't harm the overall fairness of the trial. The trial can still be fair as long as this small error doesn't harm the rights of anyone involved. 4. Section 537, protecting against small mistakes. Section 537 of the CRPC is a rule that says small mistakes won't ruin a case, as long as those mistakes didn't cause any real harm or unfairness. This means that if a rule is broken, but it didn't hurt the trial, the court will ignore the mistake. Example, if a judge forgot to sign something, but it didn't change the outcome or hurt anyone's rights, the trial's decision will still be valid. 5. Example case explanation. In the case mentioned, a judge made a small mistake. He didn't sign the judgment, the decision document, right when he announced it. This was a minor error, not something that affected fairness. Later, the judge signed the document and the accused person, the person being blamed, was given a copy of the signed judgment. The accused was able to use this signed document to appeal, ask a higher court to look at the decision again. Because this small mistake didn't affect the trial's fairness, the court decided it was okay to overlook it. 6. Importance of giving the judgment copy quickly. When a person is found guilty in court, they should get a written copy of the judgment, the court's decision, as soon as possible. This copy allows them to understand why they were found guilty. If they feel the decision is wrong, they can file an appeal in a higher court. Why timing matters. If the court delays giving this copy, it could harm the person's rights because they might miss the deadline to appeal. They could be stuck in jail waiting for this copy, even if they have a good chance of winning an appeal. If someone has a short sentence, they might serve their entire time before they even get a chance to appeal. Example for better understanding. Imagine if you're in a school competition and the judge announces you didn't win but doesn't tell you why or give you any written feedback. Without this feedback, you can't ask for a review or understand what went wrong. If they give you the feedback too late, the competition might be over and you'll have missed your chance to ask for a second look. 7. Making sure procedures are fair and timely. The CRPC wants to make sure that everyone involved in a case has a fair chance. If the process takes too long or there are delays in giving important documents, it could hurt the rights of the people involved. This is especially true for people who are found guilty and need a chance to appeal quickly. 8. Why courts overlook minor mistakes. Courts are here to make sure justice is served fairly, not to throw out cases over small errors. But if a mistake affects the fairness of the trial in any way, the court will take it seriously. Example of a serious error. If a person doesn't get a fair chance to present their side, this would hurt the fairness of the trial. The court would not overlook this. Example of a small error. If a judge delays signing a paper but this doesn't hurt anyone, the court would overlook it to keep the process moving smoothly. Summary. The Code of Criminal Procedure, RPC, is there to keep trials fair and orderly. It has vital rules that must always be followed and non-vital rules that can sometimes be overlooked if they don't cause harm. Section 5 and 37 protects against small mistakes as long as they don't cause failure of justice, meaning they don't make things unfair. When courts make minor mistakes but correct them quickly, the trial can still be fair. Giving timely copies of court decisions is important so that people have a chance to appeal if needed. This code helps make sure that everyone is treated fairly and gets the chance to defend themselves properly. It ensures that small mistakes don't ruin justice, but also protects people's rights to a fair process. Let me know if you want more examples or if any part still isn't clear. Let's break down the case you shared, step by step, in very simple language. We'll cover the main points, the background, and what the court decided. Overview of the case. This case involves a man named Iqbal Ismail Sodawala, who was convicted of a crime and was in jail. He filed 3 petitions, formal requests, to the court. The main question is it fair for a person to be in jail if they haven't received the official judgment decision about their case? Key terms to understand. Petition, a formal request to a court for something, like a review or change of decision. 2, habeas corpus, a legal action that allows a person to seek relief from unlawful detention, being held in jail without proper causes. 3, judgment, the official decision made by the judge about a case. 4, transcribed, writing down what was said, like turning spoken words into written text. Background of the case. Conviction. Iqbal was found guilty of stealing. Sections 392 and 397 of the Indian Penal Code deal with robbery. Sentence. He was sentenced to 7 years in jail starting from May 12, 1972. Jail transfers. After being convicted, Iqbal was moved between 2 jails, eventually ending up in Nagpur Central Prison. What happened next? When the judge declared Iqbal guilty, he didn't sign the judgment right away. The judgment had to be written down, transcribed first. Iqbal asked for a copy of the judgment right after the verdict, but he was told that it would be sent to him later. Days turned into weeks, and he still didn't receive the copy. This meant he couldn't file an appeal, a request to a higher court to review his case. Filing the petitions. 1. Petition num 5122. Filed on January 22, 1973, to ask the court to release him because he hadn't received the judgment. 2. Petition No. 1523, filed on January 12, 1973, stating that the judgment wasn't properly pronounced, read and signed by the judge. 3. Petition No. 1637, challenged the Bombay High Court's decision to not accept his request unless he followed certain procedures. What Iqbal claimed. He said he couldn't be held in jail for 7 months without a written judgment. He argued that without a signed judgment, he didn't really know what he was being punished for. Court's decision. Justice Khanna delivered the judgment. Here are the key points. 1. Unlawful imprisonment. The main question was whether Iqbal was legally imprisoned since he didn't receive a signed judgment. 2. Importance of a signed judgment. The court agreed that a judgment must be completed and signed by the judge. Without this, the conviction is not fully valid. 3. Judicial process. The court emphasized that a proper judicial process must be followed, meaning that every step, like signing the judgment, is necessary for fairness. 4. Outcome. The court considered Iqbal's claims and the importance of receiving the judgment. They recognized that it's unfair for someone to be held in jail without knowing why they were convicted. Example for clarity. Imagine you're playing a game and the referee declares you lost but never gives you a score sheet, the official decision. You have no idea why you lost and can't challenge the decision. That's similar to what Iqbal experienced. Without the judgment, he couldn't understand his situation or appeal. Why this matters? Fairness. Everyone has the right to know why they are being punished. Without the proper documentation, it's difficult to challenge a conviction. Legal rights. This case highlights the importance of legal procedures in protecting the rights of individuals. Judicial accountability. Judges must ensure that their decisions are formally recorded and communicated properly to the accused. Conclusion. In summary, the case of Iqbal Ismail Sodawala raises important questions about justice and fair treatment in the legal system. The court's decision emphasizes that everyone deserves to know the reasons for their imprisonment and have access to proper legal channels to appeal if necessary. This ensures that no one is unfairly kept in jail without a clear understanding of the charges against them. If you have any more questions or need further clarification on specific points, feel free to ask. Sure, let's go through this in even more detail, breaking down every part in the simplest way. Context and key people. 1. Iqbal Ismail Sodawala. He is a person convicted of a crime. This means he was found guilty of doing something illegal and was sentenced to time in jail. After his conviction, he felt there was something unfair in the way the court told him his sentence. 2. Shri Gupta. He is the judge who made the judgment in Iqbal's case. A judge's job is to listen to a case, decide if the person is guilty or not, and announce a punishment if they are guilty. 3. Sheristadar. This is a court official, like an assistant to the judge. The Sheristadar helped communicate the judge's decision to Iqbal. Mr. Dhingra. He is a lawyer who argued on behalf of Iqbal to show the court that something may have gone wrong in Iqbal's case. The situation: Iqbal was convicted, found guilty of a crime, and was sentenced to 7 years in jail. He wanted to know clearly what the judge's judgment said so he could understand why he got the punishment and possibly appeal, ask a higher court to look at his case again. Problem: he felt that the way the judgment was shared with him was not right or fair. What happened with the judgment? 1. Judge's process. The judge, Shri Gupta, normally speaks out loud his judgments in open court. Open court means that anyone can be there to hear it. This means he speaks the judgment for everyone to hear, including the main part of the decision and the punishment. After he speaks the main decision, only the final part, like guilty, not guilty, and the punishment, is told to the accused person, in this case, Iqbal. Number 2. Who told Iqbal? Iqbal didn't understand English, which is the language in which the judge announced the judgment. Because of this, the Sheristadar, court assistant, told Iqbal the decision in a language he could understand. 3. Why Iqbal didn't get a written judgment immediately. After the judge announced the decision, it needed to be transcribed, typed or written down from shorthand notes, a fast way of writing that needs to be converted to full text. This took some time, so Iqbal didn't get the official written judgment right away. Later, on February 19, 1973, the written copy was finally given to the jail where Iqbal was held, and he received it. What did Iqbal do with the judgment? For filing an appeal. Once Iqbal received the written judgment, he decided to file an appeal. An appeal is when someone asks a higher court to look at their case to see if there was any mistake in the original judgment. He filed this appeal on May 4, 1973. However, the High Court rejected this appeal on September 13th, 1973. Iqbal's concerns, what his lawyer argued. Main argument: Iqbal's lawyer, Mr. Dhingra, argued that Judge Gupte didn't tell Iqbal the judgment directly. Instead, the Sheristadar court assistant told him. Mr. Dhingra argued that this wasn't the correct way to do things. According to him, the judge should be the one to directly tell the person about their punishment. What did the court say? 6. Court's response to the argument. The court looked at a report by Judge Gupte, which confirmed that he did speak the judgment in open court. This included the final part where he announced that Iqbal was guilty and would be in jail for 7 years. Since Iqbal didn't understand English, the Sheristadar told Iqbal in a language he could understand. He shared only the main points, guilty or not guilty, and the punishment. The court said that while it's generally better for the judge himself to tell the accused about the decision, having the Sheristadar do it wasn't a problem in this situation. Up to 7, why the court thought this was okay. The court explained that as long as the judge announced the judgment in open court, it was enough to consider it properly shared. The court believed that the Sheristadar was just helping to explain the main decision to Iqbal in a language he could understand. Example to make it clearer. Imagine a classroom where the principal announces student grades in English, but some students don't understand English. A teacher who speaks both languages helps to translate the grades to those students. The principal's announcement is still official because it's done in front of everyone. The teacher is only helping those who don't understand English by translating what the principal said. In Ink's case, the court felt that as long as the judge said the decision out loud in court, it was official. The Sheristadar was just translating it for Iqbal. Final decision by the court. The court decided that Iqbal was fairly informed about his judgment because 1. The judge announced the final decision in front of everyone in open court. 2. The Sheristadar translated it so Iqbal could understand. The court found this way of sharing the judgment to be lawful and fair, even though Iqbal's lawyer had argued otherwise. This covers each part of the case in a straightforward way. Let me know if you'd like any more details on specific points. Sure, let's go through this in even more detail, breaking down every part in the simplest way. Context and key people. 1. Iqbal Ismail Sodawala. He is a person convicted of a crime. This means he was found guilty of doing something illegal and was sentenced to time in jail. After his conviction, he felt there was something unfair in the way the court told him his sentence. 2. Shri Gupte. He is the judge who made the judgment in Iqbal's case. A judge's job is to listen to a case, decide if the person is guilty or not, and announce a punishment if they are guilty. 3. Sheristadar. This is a court official, like an assistant to the judge. The Sheristadar helped communicate the judge's decision to Iqbal. 4. Mr. Dhingra. He is a lawyer who argued on behalf of Iqbal to show the court that something may have gone wrong in Iqbal's case. The situation. Iqbal was convicted, found guilty of a crime, and was sentenced to 7 years in jail. He wanted to know exactly what the judge's judgment said, so he could understand why he got the punishment and possibly appeal, ask a higher court to look at his case again. Problem. He felt that the way the judgment was shared with him was not right or fair. What happened with the judgment? 1. Judge's process. The judge, Shri Gupte, normally speaks out loud his judgments in open court. Open court means that anyone can be there to hear it. This means he speaks the judgment for everyone to hear, including the main part of the decision and the punishment. After he speaks the main decision, only the final part, like guilty, not guilty, and the punishment is told to the accused person. In this too, who told Iqbal? Iqbal didn't understand English, which is the language in which the judge announced the judgment. Because of this, the Sheristadar, court assistant, told Iqbal the decision in a language he could understand. 3. Why Iqbal didn't get a written judgment immediately. After the judge announced the decision, it needed to be transcribed, typed or written down shorthand notes, a fast way of writing that needs to be converted to full text. This took some time, so Iqbal didn't get the official written judgment right away. Later, on February 19th, 1973, the written copy was finally given to the jail where Iqbal was held, and he received it. What did Iqbal do with the judgment? 4. Filing an appeal. Once Iqbal received the written judgment, he decided to file an appeal. An appeal is when someone asks a higher court to look at their case to see if there was any mistake in the original judgment. He filed this appeal on May 4th, 1973. However, the High Court rejected this appeal on September 13th, 1973. Iqbal's concerns, what his lawyer argued. 5 main argument. Iqbal's lawyer, Mr. Dhingra, argued that Judge Gupte didn't tell Iqbal the judgment directly. Instead, the Sheristadar court assistant told him. Mr. Dhingra argued that this wasn't the correct way to do things. According to him, the judge should be the one to directly tell the person about their punishment. What did the court say? 6. Court's response to the argument. The court looked at a report by Judge Gupte, which confirmed that he did speak the judgment in open court. This included the final part, where he announced that Iqbal was guilty and would be in jail for 7 years. Since Iqbal didn't understand English, the Sherista told it in a language he could understand. He shared only the main points, guilty or not guilty, and the punishment. The court said that, while it's generally better for the judge himself to tell the accused about the decision, having the Sheristadar do it wasn't a problem in this situation. Number 7. Why the court thought this was okay. The court explained that as long as the judge announced the judgment in open court, it was enough to consider it properly shared. The court believed that the Sheristadar was just helping to explain the main decision to Iqbal in a language he could understand. Example to make it clearer. Imagine a classroom where the principal announces student grades in English, but some students don't understand English. A teacher who speaks both languages helps to translate the grades to those students. The principal's announcement is still official because it's done in front of everyone. The teacher is only helping those who don't understand English by translating what the principal said. In Iqbal's case, the court felt that as long as the judge said the decision out loud in court, it was official. The Sheristadar was just translating it for Iqbal. Final decision by the court. The court decided that Iqbal was fairly informed about his judgment because, 1, the judge announced the final decision in front of everyone in open court. 2, the Sheristadar translated it so Iqbal could understand. The court found this way of sharing the judgment to be lawful and fair, even though Iqbal's lawyer had argued otherwise. This covers each part of the case in a straightforward way. Let me know if you'd like any more details on specific points. Let's go over this line by line and break it down to understand each part more clearly. 1. The main point, Mr. Dhingra, the lawyer, said that the judge should have signed the judgment, the official written decision of the case, immediately after announcing it in court. He believes that this step is essential because it's part of following court rules properly. Signing right away makes the judgment official and complete. 2. Why Mr. Dhingra thinks it's important to sign right away. Mr. Dhingra pointed out that the judge did speak or dictate the judgment in court. However, it wasn't fully written down yet, not transcribed. But Mr. Dhingra thinks this isn't an excuse for skipping the signing part. He believes the judge must sign the judgment as soon as it's announced, even if it hasn't been completely written out in full. In other words, speaking it out loud isn't enough. According to Mr. Dhingra, signing is what makes it fully valid. And 3, understanding the law in detail, sections 366 and 367. The court has specific rules about how a judgment, the final decision, must be announced and recorded in writing. These rules are from the Code of Criminal Procedure, CRPC. Section 366, rules for announcing saying out loud the judgment. This rule is about how and when a judgment should be announced in court. Here's what it says in simple terms. Announce in open court. The judge must say the judgment out loud in open court, meaning everyone in court can hear it, including the person on trial and their lawyer. This ensures that everyone understands the decision at the same time. Timing of the announcement. The judge can announce the judgment right after the trial ends. If not, they can announce it at a later time, but they have to inform the people involved, the parties or their lawyer. Language of the announcement. The judgment should be announced in the language of the court, or, if needed, in a language that the accused, the person on trial, or their lawyer understands. Read the entire judgment if requested. If the accused or the prosecution's lawyer asks, the judge should read the entire judgment out loud in court. This ensures transparency and that nothing is hidden. Section 367, rules for writing down and signing the judgment. This rule covers how a judgment should be written and signed. Here's what it means in easy terms. Written by the judge or from dictation. The judgment can be written directly by the judge, or it can be written down, transcribed, by someone else, while the judge speaks it out loud, dictates. Contents of the judgment. The judgment must include the questions or issues the judge thought about before deciding, the final decision itself, the reasons for the decision so that everyone understands why the judge decided that way. Date and signature requirement. The judgment must be dated and signed by the judge in open court at the time they announce it. This means the judge should put the date and their signature on it right then and there. If the judgment is typed instead of handwritten, the judge should sign each page to make sure the entire document is official. 4. Why these rules are important. These rules ensure that a judgment is clear, official, and final. Let's break down why each rule is important. Announcing in open court. This lets everyone in court hear the decision and understand it at the same time. It also shows that the process is transparent. Nothing is hidden. Signing right away. Signing immediately after announcing makes the judgment official and complete. The signature shows that the judge is committed to this decision and it can't be easily changed afterward. Including the reasoning. By writing down the questions, decision, and reasons, the judge shows how they reached this decision. This helps people understand and trust the judgment since they can see the judge's thought process. 5 example to make it clearer. Imagine a teacher grading a test. 1. The teacher finishes grading the test and writes down the scores on a report. 2. School rules say the teacher must announce the grades in front of the students so everyone knows their score. 3. Right after announcing, the teacher must sign and date the report to show it's the final version. If the teacher doesn't sign it right after announcing, someone might think the grades could change. Someone might think the grades could change later, or that the teacher wasn't sure. 6. How this applies to Iqbal's case. In Iqbal's case, his lawyer, Mr. Dhingra, argues that the judge didn't sign the judgment immediately after announcing it in court. Mr. Dhingra thinks this breaks the rules in sections 366 and 367 and could create problems in the case. According to the lawyer, the judge's signature at the time of announcing is essential because it shows the judgment is final and complete. Summary, Mr. Dhingra's argument. The judge should have signed the judgment immediately after announcing it. Not signing makes it look like the judgment wasn't properly completed. Section 366 requires the judgment to be announced in open court in a language understood and fully read if requested. Section 367 requires the judgment to be written, include reasoning, and signed immediately. These steps make the judgment clear, official, and trusted by everyone involved. Sure, let's go through the entire process of a court trial judgment step by step, making it as simple as possible so that it's easy to understand. 1. What is a court trial? A court trial is a legal process where a person, called the accused, is judged for a crime they are said to have committed. The court listens to evidence, facts and information from both sides. The prosecution, who says the accused did something wrong, and the defense, who defends the accused. 2, the role of the judge. At the end of the trial, a judge, the person in charge of the court, decides if the accused is guilty, did it, or not guilty to do it. This decision is called the judgment. 3, what happens when the judgment is announced? The judge reads the judgment aloud in court. This is an important moment because it tells everyone what the decision is. The judgment should explain what the judge decided, guilty or not guilty, what punishment, if any, the accused will face if they are guilty. Importance of completing the judgment. The Code of Criminal Procedure has rules that say the judgment should be fully written and ready before the judge reads it. By the time the judge announces it, they should just add the date and sign it. This is like finishing a test before handing it in. 5. Why does the judgment need to be ready? It needs to be ready so that a copy can be given to the accused right away after it's announced. This is important because the accused needs to know what the judge decided so they can think about their next steps. For example, they might want to appeal, ask a higher court to check the decision if they think the judgment is wrong. 6. What is Section 371 of the Code? Section 371(1) says if the accused asks for a copy of the judgment, they should get it quickly. If the accused speaks a different language, they can ask for a translation, a version in their own language, if possible. This copy should be given for free unless it's a special kind of case. Understanding without delay. The phrase without delay means there should not be a long wait after the judgment is announced before the accused gets their copy. It is like when a teacher gives you back your test paper right after grading it. You want to see how you did without waiting too long. 8. What happens if the judgment is not ready? If the judge only says the judgment but doesn't write it down completely and sign it, it can take longer to get a copy to the accused. For example, if the judge announced the judgment on May 12, 1972, but it took until February 19, 1973 for the accused to get a copy. That's a huge problem. 9. The example of delay. In the example, it took 9 months for the accused to receive a copy of the judgment. That's a really long time to wait. This delay is considered unjustified because it should only take a few days to prepare the written judgment after it's announced. 10. Why is this delay a problem? Waiting so long is unfair to the accused because they don't know what the court decided. It causes confusion and stress. They might miss the chance to appeal or to understand the consequences of the judgment. 1. Trial process. A trial is when a judge decides if someone is guilty or not guilty of a crime. 2. Judgment announcement. The judgment is the final decision announced in court. 3. Completion of judgment. The judgment must be fully written and signed before it is announced to ensure quick distribution. 4. Right to a copy. The accused has the right to receive a copy of the judgment without delay. 5. Importance of timeliness. Delays in providing the judgment copy can cause unfairness and confusion. I hope this detailed explanation helps you understand the entire process surrounding a court judgment. If you have any questions,